Anyone who considers themselves to be a fan of DC Comics is likely no stranger to the Justice League of America. This team, originally created by Gardner Fox in 1960, has served as the company's flagship superhero ensemble virtually without interruption from their first appearance, carving out a niche within superhero comics as the place where DC's biggest and most popular characters all come together in one singular book. In the decades since their creation, the JLA has become an unquestionable cornerstone of the DC universe, appearing in everything from comics, films, video games, and many seminal animated series. For many, when they think of the best that DC has to offer, their mind instantly jumps to the Justice League and their classic lineup. However, this wasn't always the case. In fact, throughout the mid-1990s, the JLA experienced a shocking decline in interest, as the team slowly faded away into the background of the company's universe. In order to revive interest in the series and turn the Justice League's fortunes around, DC hired writer Grant Morrison to completely rebuild the JLA in their own image, with Morrison alongside artist Howard Porter building throughout a near 4-year run on the comic the foundation for the modern incarnation of this beloved superhero team. To me, this series is arguably the blueprint for every Justice League story that's come since, and a run that ultimately restored the team as the beating heart of the DC universe, as it not only returned them to prominence at a time when interest was declining, while simultaneously ushering in what was clearly a new era for the JLA, one filled with new and exciting characters, concepts and stories. And so in this video, I want to break down the history of how this iteration of the Justice League came to be, discuss the team's history throughout this period and what led to Morrison and Porter's dramatic reinvention, and how the duo created a superhero team for a new generation and saved the JLA from the depths of despair. Before we continue though, just a quick reminder to leave a like on this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe to Owen Likes Comics so you don't miss out on any future videos. In order to understand how Grant Morrison and Howard Porter saved the Justice League, I think it's first important to overview the team's history in the years leading up to their arrival on the series, as well as outline the factors that made such a drastic reimagining of the team so necessary. You see, following DC's universe-wide reboot, 1985's Crisis on Infinite Earths, the JLA would find themselves in an unusual place within the company. As DC editorial was hard at work reintroducing all of the flagship characters, there was far less emphasis being placed internally on building and introducing a new version of the League. Not only that, but because every DC title was being relaunched, many editors of the big characters often associated with the JLA were hesitant to allow them to be featured on other books. Because of this, the two writers tasked with helming the new Justice League title, Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis, were forced to piece together an unlikely team of B and C-list heroes, with only Batman and Martian Manhunter remaining from the team's traditional lineup. This group, best known as the Justice League International, was introduced in 1987 to be a follow-up team to the original JLA, banded together in the wake of the original group's disbandment. Brought to life by the two writers and artist Kevin Maguire, JLI was initially expected to be a failure. However, the book became something of a surprise success, with many fans loving its humorous and endearing tone and its dedication to spotlighting often unsung and underutilized characters. At a time when comics were becoming increasingly dark and more mature, Justice League International felt like a real breath of fresh air, as we saw this ragtag team of questionable heroes be forced to step out of their predecessors' shadows and save the world. However, while Justice League International was a surprise success during its initial run, it was fair to say that this team was noticeably lacking in star power, and as such, sales did begin to slump over the next few years. By the time that Giffen, DeMatteis and Maguire all exited the book in early 1992, DC were fully aware that a significant shake-up was needed to regain interest in the Justice League, with the company's plan being to spin the ensemble off into several new and distinct groups. Now, this process had already begun during the International era, with the sister team Justice League Europe being formed in 1989. However, throughout the middle of the 1990s, we saw the creation of other JLA affiliated teams, like Extreme Justice and the Justice League Task Force. As you might imagine, this attempt at splitting the league off into multiple different groups didn't work, as each team's roster was seriously lacking in the star power needed to sell a title, while the company had inadvertently split their readership throughout all of these different books. By the beginning of 1996, it became apparent to DC that this wasn't working, and in order to salvage what was once their premier ensemble, something radical had to be done to the Justice League. As such, DC would cancel all their ongoing Justice League comics in August of 1996, and the following month they would introduce a new team in the pages of the 3-issue miniseries A Midsummer's Nightmare. This comic, written by Mark Waid and Fabian Nicieza, with art by Jeff Johnson and Derek Robertson, would reunite the original 7 founding members of the JLA, albeit with new iterations of the Flash and Green Lantern, as the heroes are forced to team up to prevent the villainous No Man from warping reality. At the end of this story, Superman proposes that the heroes officially reform the JLA, believing that only together can they truly protect the world from danger. The 6 other heroes all agree, and the stage is set for DC's flagship ensemble to make their long-awaited return. And in January of 1997, the duo of Grant Morrison and Howard Porter would not only bring the JLA back to the printed page, but usher in a brand new generation for the team. Following the release of A Midsummer's Nightmare, DC Comics quickly began developing plans to relaunch the previously cancelled Justice League comic as a new monthly title, this time simply named JLA. Despite A Midsummer's Nightmare being co-written by Waid and Nicieza, the company would actually entrust the new comic to Grant Morrison, a rising star who had made their name on books such as Doom Patrol, Animal Man, and the acclaimed Batman graphic novel Arkham Asylum. For Morrison, getting the opportunity to write a new iteration of the Justice League was a dream come true, with the writer seeking to push the ensemble into strange new directions, introducing countless new villains, locations and concepts, while simultaneously harking back to the original Silver Age comics. As Morrison would explain in an interview with Entertainment Weekly,
there had been a couple of decades where the Justice League characters weren't DC's Big Seven: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, etc. There had been a very successful revamp in the 90s by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis, done almost as a comedy drama, a really great reimagining of the Justice League. By the time I came along, honestly, the book was filled with characters that no one would remember and want to remember, like Bloodwind, which is one of the worst superhero names ever. These weren't bad characters, and the writers and artists were good. It was characters so far down the celebrity list in the DC universe that you would have no idea who they were if they turned up at a nightclub. It wasn't selling very well. I think it was selling 20,000 copies a month. When I came on with Howard Porter, our basic idea was, let's go back to the original notion of this, and team up all of DC's most successful and well-known characters together. At the time, that was seen as a radical notion.
In particular, Morrison sought to take the JLA back to its roots, restoring the team's classic lineup and its status as the true all-star book of the DC universe. In addition though, throughout their 4-year run on the series, Morrison was also keen to explore the idea of the League existing as a modern pantheon of gods, telling stories that questioned their place in the world and their relationship with humanity. In a way, you could even argue that this approach drew inspiration from Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' Watchmen comic, released a decade earlier, which sought to deconstruct the same superhero archetypes pioneered by teams like the Justice League. For Morrison though, while Watchmen broke superheroes down and made them into fallible humans, JLA sought to embrace the larger-than-life aspects of this team. As they would explain in an interview with Wizard magazine,
I think what Alan did was to humanize superheroes. Watchmen showed superheroes as completely flawed creatures under the masks. But what I want to do in Justice League is actually flip that whole thing around and say, these are the pantheons of gods in the DC universe. What I'm trying to do is combine the elements I liked best about it. The imaginative thrust of the 1960s Gardner Fox JLA stories, which were real roller coaster rides all the time, filled with weird concepts. then add the kind of humor of the Giffen DeMatteis Justice League stuff from the 80s, and then finally to combine those and put in my own flavor.
This statement is very much at the heart of Morrison and artist Howard Porter's 41-issue run on JLA, as the pair throughout it would attempt to tell a modern version of the original 1960s comics, combining their fantastical and light-hearted tone with the more nuanced and morally complex stories of the modern era. This mindset can be seen in the very first story arc in the pair's run, the 4-issue New World Order. Here, we see the JLA slowly beginning to resume their duties as a group. However, their return is interrupted by the arrival of a brand new team of superheroes, the Hyper Clan, a group of alien survivors from a destroyed world who come to Earth to prevent the same geological crisis that doomed their home. HyperClan quickly wins over the people of the Earth, with their leader Protex leading an ambitious plan to terraform the Sahara Desert into a luscious paradise. While the entire planet is easily enamoured by HyperClan, the JLA remains skeptical, eventually discovering that the team aren't actually superheroes from a destroyed planet at all, and instead a group of white Martians masquerading as heroes in order to weaken Earth's defences before an alien invasion. Discovering this, the League confront HyperClan about their true intentions, with the team revealing their master plan and capturing many members of the League. Eventually though, Superman is able to overcome Protex and the JLA break free from their containment, defeating the villains and rallying the people of the Earth to fight back against the alien invasion. Not only did this story serve as the League's formal coming out party, with the entire world now embracing the JLA once again, but it ends with a clear demonstration that the team were entering a brand new chapter of their history, with the final moments of this story introducing the Justice League's new base of operation, the Watchtower. With the League status quo now established, Morrison and Porter would attempt to expand their role within the DC universe in subsequent issues, as well as fleshing out the dynamics between each of its members, with Superman and Wonder Woman serving as the awe-inspiring gods that lead by example, Batman being the master strategist and the team's trump card, and Green Lantern and Flash symbolising the new generation of heroes, learning from their more experienced counterparts. The duo would also incorporate several big status quo changes going on in other DC books at this time, including Wonder Woman's death in issue 125 of her solo series, as well as Superman's new look and electric powers. The next big storyline would come in JLA issues 8 and 9, when the League are subdued and brainwashed by a villain called the Key, who traps the team in a dream world where their lives played out entirely differently, with Batman having retired and married Selina Kyle, while Superman lives on a still existent Krypton as the planet's Green Lantern. With the heroes trapped, the Key intends to torture and kill them, before they are saved by Green Arrow, with Connor Hawke, the son of the original Arrow, earning a place in the League after saving his new teammates. Following this, Morrison and Porter would begin what has arguably become the most famous story arc from this entire run, with the 5-part Rock of Ages beginning in the next issue. Here, we're introduced to the Injustice Gang, a team made up of the JLA's greatest villains, with its leader Lex Luthor now in possession of a rock that grants him near unlimited power, using it to send a group of hard-like doppelgangers to attack the JLA. As the heroes fight off the doppelgangers and regroup in the Watchtower, Batman deduces that Lex Luthor is responsible. However, before they can strike back, Aquaman, the Flash and Green Lantern are confronted by Metron, who warns them that their impending clash with the Injustice Gang will result in Superman destroying the Rock of Ages, which will in turn have horrible ramifications in the future. To prevent this, Metron sends the heroes 15 years into the future, where they find themselves in a world where Earth has been enslaved by Darkseid. Inhabiting the bodies of their future selves, the trio track down the remaining members of the League, now a band of freedom fighters attempting to liberate the world from Darkseid's control. The heroes travel to New Genesis, where they learn that Batman has been hiding out and posing as Darkseid's right-hand man Desaad. Using Desaad's boom tubes, the heroes infiltrate Darkseid's fortress and confront the villain, with each of the futuristic heroes giving their lives to stop him. As they fight, Batman instructs Flash, Green Lantern and Aquaman to use the Mobius chair to return to the present day. Back in the present day, the three heroes return to discover the League fighting the Injustice Gang, with Superman in possession possession of the rock and vowing to destroy it. The heroes manage to convince the Man of Steel into handing the rock over to Metron, who shockingly reveals that it's actually fake and that the real one has been stolen by the Joker. The League chase after Joker to take it and prevent whatever chaos he was about to unleash, with Martian Manhunter using his telepathy to temporarily turn the Joker sane, empathizing with him and convincing him to hand over the rock. With Metron once again in possession of the Rock of Ages, the various JLA members regroup and reflect on what they have just experienced, with Superman spooked by the realization that Lex's Injustice Gang was only created as a reaction to him reforming the JLA, calls an urgent meeting and shockingly proposes for the good of all mankind that the Justice League be officially disbanded. Released in March of 1998, issue 16 of JLA would resume 3 months later, as we see the former League members embarking on a recruitment drive to form a new version of the team. Announced by Superman, Aquaman and Martian Manhunter, the heroes announce a competition for aspiring superheroes to join them for a day, with a young hero known as Retro being selected. Before he can meet up with the JLA though, Retro is killed by the villain Prometheus, who takes his place, attempting to infiltrate the League. After being taken to the Watchtower, we see Prometheus slowly pick the League members off one by one, infecting Steel's armor with a virus, poisoning Martian Manhunter, and telling the Flash that the Watchtower is rigged with explosives that will detonate if he attempts to run. As Prometheus holds the League hostage, we watch as Superman leads a team of reporters into the Watchtower, where he enters to discover Prometheus's reign of terror. Superman then confronts the villain, who tells the Man of Tomorrow to kill himself to prevent the deaths of everyone else on the Watchtower. Unsurprisingly, Superman doesn't agree to this, and distracts Prometheus long enough for one of the reporters to sneak up and attack him from behind, revealing herself to be Catwoman. Realizing that he's defeated, Prometheus opens a portal and flees back to his hideout in the Ghost Zone, and as the League get to their feet, thanking Catwoman for her help, a boom tube suddenly opens in the center of the Watchtower, and from the other side emerges the New Gods, who have come to warn the League of an impending attack that will cause the end of the universe. This reveal leads into the climax of Morrison and Porter's JLA series, the 5-issue storyline World War III. Beginning in December 1999, this story sees Orion and Big Barda explain to the League the impending threat of Mageddon, a super sentient interdimensional being on its way to consume and destroy the entire universe. While the League are being briefed on Mageddon's pending arrival, we discover that Lex Luthor has formed a new version of the Injustice Gang, this time including Prometheus, Queen Bee, and the General. Using the Ghost Zone, Prometheus leads the villains into the Watchtower, ambushing the heroes and defeating them. As the League struggles to overcome the attack, it's revealed that the Injustice Gang are actually being controlled by Mageddon, with Lex's head transforming into a giant eyeball as the entity taunts the fallen heroes. While the villains destroy the Watchtower, we see Mageddon's true form materialise, as a giant sun-like creature emerges in space with the power to brainwash and influence every living entity near it. As Mageddon forms, it begins to instruct the entire population of Earth to go to war. As we see the entire world descend into chaos, Superman attempts to stop Mageddon by using a boom tube to fly inside it, but finds himself trapped within the creature instead. Just as all hope appears lost, the heroes regroup on Earth and the Flash, who has been missing ever since the Injustice Gang's attack, arrives alongside the Glimmer, a speedster from another dimension previously destroyed by Mageddon. Glimmer explains to the heroes that the only way to stop the entity is to rally the entire forces of the world and imbue them with their powers, with Glimmer transforming an army of ordinary people into temporary supermen, instructing them to head into space and attack the monster. With Wonder Woman leading the charge, the army flies into space and attacks Mageddon, weakening it and allowing Superman to break free and absorb all of the anti-sunlight powering the creature, killing it. With the universe saved, we see celebrations all around the world, and as Earth finally stands united, inspired by the heroics of the League, we see our heroes working to rebuild the Watchtower, as they remark on everything they've experienced, describing their fight against Mageddon to be their greatest threat yet. The League are informed that the villainous Dr. Destiny is attacking Detroit, causing the JLA to spring into action and make their way to save the world once again. following the conclusion of the World War III story arc, Grant Morrison would exit the JLA series, with the climactic issue 41 marking the final chapter of the run. Following Morrison's departure, the comic would be taken over by Mark Waid, who, alongside Howard Porter and artist Steve Scott, would continue the themes established by their predecessor, culminating in the Tower of Babel storyline. Meanwhile, after exiting JLA, Morrison would tell one final Justice League story that same year, teaming up with artist Frank Quitely to create the graphic novel JLA Earth 2, where the League come face to face with their evil counterparts from the antimatter universe, the Crime Syndicate. Following this, Morrison would actually leave DC Comics altogether, moving to Marvel, where they would begin a 3-year run on the X-Men, reimagining and revitalising the mutant heroes in the same way that they did with Justice League. After New X-Men's conclusion, Morrison would return to DC in 2005, producing the iconic All-Star Superman graphic novel and being entrusted by the company's editor-in-chief Dan DiDio to help rebuild the DC universe following the fallout of Infinite Crisis. In the years since, Morrison has remained one of the most influential names within DC Comics. However, I think JLA remains one of the most fascinating and arguably best works. Considering the state of Justice League Comics in the years before Morrison and Porter took over the title, it's hard to think of JLA as being anything less than a major return to form, and a much needed reminder of the League's importance within the DC universe. Before Grant Morrison, the Justice League had devolved into a collection of B and C-list heroes, largely those unable to sustain their own titles, and by the time the writer had concluded their run, the team had been transformed back into the flagship ensemble of the entire company. Not only did Morrison restore the League's all-star status, but throughout their run, the writer sought to depict them as the modern equivalent of Greek and Roman gods. At a time when other comics were presenting their characters as darker and morally ambiguous, Morrison aimed to remind comic fans of the values and ideals at the heart of characters featured in the pages of JLA, offering a brand of altruistic yet still relatable heroism at a time when it was arguably needed most. This approach, combined with the added star power of the team's new roster, saw the Justice League sales improve dramatically. As Grant Morrison recalls in their book Super Gods,
sales went immediately from 20,000 to 120,000, and JLA stayed as DC's top-selling book for the rest of the decade. I had a genuine mainstream comic book hit on my hands. Readers responded to the optimism of the book as I suspected they might. We'd seen superheroes sobbing and rendering their capes in anguish, and it wasn't really what they did best. It was time to watch them wrestling with angels and tugging worlds on chains. It was time they got their act together and gave us something to live up to.
For me, what fascinated me about Morrison's JLA wasn't just how the comic presented its characters as statuesque larger-than-life heroes, but how it did so while simultaneously ushering in a whole new generation of superheroes to carry on this torch for years to come. Despite basing their stories around the original 7 members of the League, Morrison uses legacy heroes like Kyle Rayner's Green Lantern and Wally West's The Flash as our POV into the godlike world of the JLA, with these characters becoming unquestionable equals to their legendary teammates throughout their high-stakes adventures with the League. Furthermore, a huge part of this series focused on the JLA's relationship with humanity, with both Morrison's initial and final story arcs ending with the heroes rallying the people of Earth to help them save the day. Despite portraying the Justice League as a modern pantheon of gods, the comic never forgets to reaffirm the heroes' connections with humanity, with Morrison's JLA being above all else the best that we as humans have to offer, and what we should all aspire to. Rereading this entire run for the first time in years, I honestly think that Morrison's JLA might be the most significant version of the League to have been created since Gardner Fox first brought the ensemble to life. Without it, it's very possible that the Justice League wouldn't have returned to their place as the apex of DC's storytelling, and instead remained a team stuck in the shadow of their former self. Not only did Morrison and Porter turn the JLA's fortunes around, but the duo created a blueprint for how the team would be depicted for decades to come, with virtually every Justice League story being told after the new millennium being in some way influenced by their interpretation. This precedent set by the pair's 41-issue run wouldn't just be felt throughout future JLA comics though, but also in the way that the team would be adapted into other forms of media, with both the 2001 Justice League animated series and Zack Snyder's live live-action film, taking plenty of inspiration from Morrison's ambitious relaunch. And with all of this in mind, I think the legacy and significance of this comic can be assessed through how its status quo has been maintained, with the Justice League today still very much being seen as DC's flagship book, comprised of the company's biggest heroes. The acclaim and success that the Justice League have today can be directly traced back to Grant Morrison and Howard Porter's epic gamble to revive the classic ensemble and rebuild them for a whole new generation. And this is why, in my opinion, the duo both saved the JLA and, after a decade of misfortune, did this beloved team of heroes justice. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave a like on this video and leave a comment down below as well. Let me know your thoughts on everything we talked about in today's video. I can't wait to hear what you have to say as always. If you're new to Owen Likes Comics and you're not subscribed to the channel, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notify bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you enjoyed this video and you want some more, there should be some others on screen right now that you might also enjoy. If you want to help support the channel and help me make more videos, you can do so over at patreon.com/OwenLikesComics. Or if you just want some more of me, you can follow me on Twitter just at OwenLikesComics. But that's all for this video though. Again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll see you next time. But until then, take care and keep reading.